The African sun burned hot across the open plains, the kind of midday glare that turned the land into a shimmering mirage of gold and dust. Ranger Michael Hayes, a veteran of 20 years in the field, lifted his binoculars from the ridge. He had followed lions most of his career, yet what came into focus that afternoon would change the way he understood nature forever. There, moving silently through the tall yellow grass, was a lioness. Her name was Nalira, a powerful female known to the rangers for her unmatched hunting skill. Her coat caught the light like rippling fire. But Michael's hands froze as he adjusted the lenses. Behind Nalira, following as though tethered by invisible strings, walked two tiny, spotted shapes. Baby deer fawns. Not stalking, not fleeing, but walking with her. Like children following their mother. Just days earlier, Michael had documented a heartbreaking scene near a shrinking watering hole. A young mother antelope had fallen victim to a marauding band of hyenas. The ground still bore the marks of the struggle, scattered tufts of fur, clawed soil, and silence heavy with finality. But it was what stood beside the body that pierced Michael's heart. Two fawns, barely a week old, pressed trembling against their mother's lifeless side. Their soft cries carried on the hot wind, a sound raw with confusion and loss. Michael knew the truth all too well. Orphans of that age stood no chance. They couldn't graze, couldn't flee, couldn't even survive the night without their mother's warmth. Predators, disease, or even the chill of darkness would claim them before long. But fate had other plans. From the thickets, Nalira appeared. Every instinct told Michael what was about to happen. A lioness does not show mercy to prey. His hand hovered over the radio, torn between the urge to intervene and the oath that rangers must let nature take its course. His breath caught as Nalira approached, muscles taut, eyes locked on the shivering fawns. Then, against every law of predator and prey, she lowered her massive head. Instead of striking, she sniffed them. The fawns, desperate for comfort, pressed against her golden chest. And Nalira let them. For the next 3 days, Michael documented something the scientific community had long deemed impossible. Nalira cleaned the fawns with her coarse tongue as though they were her own cubs. She guarded them from the midday sun, her body forming a living canopy of shade. At night, she curled around them, her flank rising and falling with each heavy breath, keeping them warm. Even more astonishing, the fawns, whom Michael later named Grace and Lumen, treated Nalira as their mother without hesitation. They followed her steps across the savannah, learning the shape of her shadow, trusting the rhythm of her protection. When word reached the conservation station, Dr. Miriam Okoye, the park's leading wildlife biologist, hurried to witness it herself. She had studied lions her entire career, but the sight left her silent. Standing beside Michael, she whispered, "This rewrites everything. Lions don't adopt prey. It contradicts survival itself." But the most shocking discovery was still to come. On the 4th day, Michael noticed Grace nudging Nalira's belly. To his astonishment, Nalira shifted to allow the fawn to latch. At first, it seemed futile. Nalira hadn't birthed cubs in months. There should have been no milk. But nature, unpredictable and miraculous, defied expectation. By evening, both fawns were nursing. Nalira had begun producing milk. Her maternal hormones had somehow triggered lactation, driven by instinct stronger than reason. Grace's tail flicked in delight. Lumen's small ears twitched with relief. For the first time since their mother's death, they were nourished. The news spread beyond the park. Videos shared by the rangers showed the lioness with her adopted fawns, and within days, the story circled the globe. Millions watched in awe, calling it a living parable of love beyond boundaries. But attention can be dangerous. And far away, in the shadows, someone else was watching. Among the acacia groves, Raphael Mbeki, a notorious poacher, seethed. He had stalked Nalira's pride for weeks, intending to capture her for the illegal wildlife trade. Now, the sudden global spotlight on her threatened his operation. The more the lioness was protected, the more his profits slipped through his hands. He devised a ruthless plan. If the fawns disappeared, so too would the story. Nalira would be left vulnerable in grief, easy prey for capture. That on a moonless night, Raphael crept toward the pride's resting grounds, a rifle in his hands, tranquilizer darts strapped to his belt. His footsteps made no sound on the dry soil. The fawns lay curled beside Nalaira, their tiny sides rising and falling with sleep. He raised his weapon, the crosshairs fixed on Grace. Before his finger tightened, Nalaira's eyes opened. Even in the darkness, her gaze burned like molten amber. A low rumble rolled from her throat, ancient and thunderous. Within seconds, that rumble erupted into a roar so fierce it rattled the marrow of every living creature within miles. Raphael froze. Fear turned his arms rigid. Still, he fired, the dart flying wide. Nalaira surged forward, every muscle exploding with power, her charge splitting the night like lightning. The poacher panicked. Dropping his weapon, he sprinted into the open. But on the savannah, there is no escape from a lioness defending her young. Her paws struck the earth in pounding rhythm, her roar following him like a storm. By the time rangers, awakened by the commotion, arrived on the scene, Raphael had scrambled into the branches of a thorn tree. Nalaira circled below, her growls rolling like thunder, the fawns safe behind her. The rangers disarmed and arrested him. His equipment revealed evidence of a massive trafficking ring, records of buyers, maps of routes, caches of snares and traps. His capture led to the dismantling of one of the largest poaching networks in East Africa. Raphael Mbeki received a 15-year prison sentence, and with his downfall came a resurgence of hope for countless animals once doomed to his trade. As the weeks passed, Grace and Lumen grew. Nalaira continued to nurse and guard them until their legs steadied and their strength returned. When they began nibbling on grass shoots, she still walked beside them, swatting away jackals and shielding them from eagles. The unlikely trio became a symbol of resilience. Visitors whispered their story, conservation groups celebrated their survival, and elders of the land spoke of Nalaira with reverence, as a lioness who reminded the world that nature's laws, while fierce, can also bend toward mercy. Dr. Okoye reflected. This was more than biology. It was devotion. Somehow, Nalaira chose love where instinct dictated violence. Grace and Lumen eventually grew into graceful adults, venturing further on their own, but never straying too far from the lioness who had saved them. Their survival strengthened the park's fragile antelope population, while Nalaira's story inspired protections for lions across the region. In the end, Michael Hayes often returned to the ridge where he had first seen the trio. He remembered the shimmer of the grass, the impossible sight of two fawns following a lioness, and the way his breath had caught at the sheer wonder of it all. Nature is often cruel, but sometimes, rarely, it gives us miracles that remind us what binds every living thing together. Nalaira, Grace, and Lumen became more than predator and prey. They became proof that compassion can outlast instinct, and that even in the wildest places, love knows no boundaries. And as the sun set over the savannah, painting the sky in hues of fire and blood, their silhouettes told a story that no words could ever fully capture: a lioness and her fawns, walking side by side into a future born not of fear, but of something greater.